we're going to move forward here. I was in the middle of doing some MPI, and I was about to run it cross-partition when the system hung. I was not able to get an Arch KDB or a K dump. The only thing I could get was a UV dump, and I was seeing things in there that had to do with real-time clocks. Now, one thing I have seen that before, there are several issues here. I'm running partitions that are smaller than supported. I'm doing 2-blade partitions, and they always say 8 blades as a minimum partition. Also, I have older firmware, but I do seem to have some sort of real-time clock problem that pops up on me now and then on the system. So let me go to where I left off here. I'm going to log in. This time I'm going to log in as guest. Oops. Instead of running as root. And I've got that MPI Pong that we were just looking at. So I'm going to GCC MPI Pong.c. And again, it doesn't like the fact that I don't have a header here. So I'm going to do a module avail. And I did get it clean now, and this is, we're already done with that, but here's the module I want. So I'm going to do a module load. And now if I compile, I'm still missing the libraries, -L MPI, or I could have used the MPI CC command to do it. Now I was about to do an MPI run -NP2, and that was where we were. This is the message size. This is the latency in microseconds. This is the bandwidth in megabytes. And I am purely memory to memory. In fact, I'm probably with only 2 threads wide, only on the same blade. Let me go 32 wide. I kind of want to write these numbers down, so I'm going from with 2 wide, I'm going 0.4 to 389 microseconds, and the bandwidth is going from 2, which we really don't care, up to 5381. More than likely, we can't prove that right now, but that's staying on the same node board, same socket. I'm going to go 32 wide, and this will be competing with other things running because I don't have boot CPU sets in place or not. So with 32 wide, I'm seeing 0.97. Notice the bandwidth actually did go down on the low end too. I expect the bandwidth to go down on the high end as well because we're going across the interconnect. In fact, I can see that it fell off. So my latency got much worse. It went from 389 up to 850. And my bandwidth went from 5381 down to 3665 is the best example. Just picking that one here, this one there, and that one there. Now I'm going to try to run that across all the clusters. I do not expect this to work because we have not configured array D yet. And it says array service is not available on Floyd 1. So I'm going to go to root. I'm going to do an array config -A, and I'm going to call the array Floyd -big A. I'm just going to go with simple authentication. There's an RSA key there. -M to make the arrayd.conf file. -D to transfer it to all the hosts. And then my host list. And it's going to prompt me several times here. When you're on ICE, you have RSA keys already planted and CExec that can do all this for you. Now what do I need to do after this? Restart my array D services across the cluster. Also, I also needed to have the NumaLink cable enabled and NumaLink enabled, not disabled. And I also need the XPC module loaded. I don't know. I don't like something happened here. What's going on with Floyd 3? I think, Tim, you've got Floyd 3. Do you know if it's what's going on with it? Doesn't ping. Let me take a look.
It was up the last time I was in it this morning.
Yeah, I know. I rebooted during break. One of the things you got to worry about is XPC can get a problem, and you kind of
I defaulted to boot to EFI.
Okay.
That's why.
So fs0 : cd in the EFI /SUSE. You could actually just run the whole command. Okay. So I'm still going to have to push that file off to Floyd 3. I don't want to grab that console anyways. When we're using XPC, first of all, you don't want to load it if you're not going to use it. This is for cross-partition MPT. You load it, then you lock these files, these partitions together in a more critical situation. You might not even be able to boot the system if XPC is not the same rev level, the same checksum between the systems. Almost up. Now we could fix that with EFI Boot Manager to get that in place, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. Now when XPC is loaded, there's cross-partition communication, and there's something called an XPC_heartbeat, XPC_HB. Let me do a PS-E and grep for HB. No, I don't see it there. I don't think I have XPC loaded yet. Let me do a mod probe, XPC. Now let me check for that heartbeat. There it is, XPC_heartbeat. In fact, I can see that it did establish a heartbeat to 2 other partitions already. Did we get the 3rd one here yet? So it's not loaded here. I'm just going to do a mod probe, XPC, and we should see a heartbeat happen. There they are now. So I've got all 3 partitions connected. And if I were to disconnect or something, you would see messages on the serial console indicating that there was a disconnect because a partition was not responding. Okay, so now let me do a service array restart. And I still do have to push the file off to Floyd 3. Let me go into ITSC array. SFTP to Floyd 3. And I need to restart the RAD service on that particular node. And I'm going to do an AS check, and it all looks clean. Just because AS check says it's clean doesn't mean that there won't be problems. And you got to have the same MPI, the same RAD, and everything has to be identical, the same XPC between the different partitions. Okay, so now we were back here. Let's see here. And I'm using a home directory that is NFS mounted on all the partitions such that this A.out is on all the partitions. So now let me try a module load, MPT, and then a MPI run -MP2 to see that we were working. We are. So now I'm going to go across the cluster, Floyd 1, Floyd 2, Floyd 3, Floyd 4. And I am now running. So now I've got all 8 blades involved instead of just 2 blades. My latency did go up to 1.47 now. There's more hardware involved. So I went from 0.4 to 0.97 to 1.47. And then the bandwidth up to 3389. Also, I'm going to do this again with the dash stats. Are we still alive?
I still have your main screen.
I just got a warning that my web browser wasn't working. So let's see what happens. Now, dash stats is going to write stuff into the output. So let me redirect that. And we're going to get 1 record or 1 report per thread. Do more on ERR. So this is telling me what each of the threads are doing. And one of the things interesting to us, we don't want any retries. And do we have any GRU activity? And here I can see bytes being transferred via the GRU. Any questions right now? I want to move on to PCP and then run this thing under PCP control. And I want to start off by getting a remote desktop. Oops. Okay, SU dash. See if remote desktop is configured. Restart my window manager is sometimes needed. I'm not going to worry about that. I don't have an ITSI x11xorg.conf file. So let's see if I can connect now. If it just stays black like this, usually restarting the window manager is what you need. If you can't even get a connection, then the port isn't open and XINET-D does not have VNC server check config on. The best command for any of our systems that have PCP installed is PMG-sys. Gives me a little picture up here that shows me each of the individual CPUs, my load level, my network traffic, my memory usage, my memory allocation, and my disk activity. I'm also going to create a file called ITSI nodes and put in there my machines here. They have to have a daemon running on them called PMCD. And again, PCP is open source, but we have integrated it into our foundation and accelerate. Okay, so now there's another command here, PMG cluster, which will show a PMG-sys for multiple hosts. Let's see, can't get hardware configuration for Floyd 1. Floyd 1 is not working right. Let's go check that.
I never got to the last lab, so I probably didn't turn something on.
Shouldn't have to. If foundation was loaded, you should be fine. So foundation is loaded. We just need a PMCD running. It should have been running by default. Do a check config PCP. It is on. It's possible an out-of-memory killer message or something like that. Let me do a D message rep for PMCD. Nothing in there. Huh. Well, anyway, let's do a service PCP start. And now it is running. I don't know what happened, why. I mean, I rebooted just a little while ago. We could probably check the boot messages, but that one worked. It might have hit that same bug that I had before on the other system. Starting, stopping. Yeah, it hit the same error that we were hitting before. Okay, let's quit out of there. I'm curious to a CPU map. CPU map is working here. Okay. Now, in this box, I'm going to right-click to quit. And now I'm just going to run PMG cluster. And now I can see all my systems. Let me go back to here. I'm going to run that run that I had here this time. And this time I'm going to go 30 CPUs instead of 2. Now I can see all, except for 2 per node, I can see all the CPUs going busy. I can see it is progressing here. I bring up top. I see that they are running. They're all 100%. I don't know why it's, there we are, 105. Your very first sample in top can be distorted, so you have to be a little careful there. No real system time. We're basically CPU bound here. If I do my perf top on this thing, I can see that all my threads, I'm spending all my time in a barrier communication overhead doing this MPI SGI shared progress. Any questions? The next thing I want to do is configure an archive for this stuff. I'm just waiting. Actually, let me just blow that up. I don't need that anymore. So, I want to configure PM Logger. Let me just do a check config first of PM Logger. In older releases, there was not a check config service, but as of last November, there was. It is check config on for me. I'm going to go into var lib system imager. I'm sorry, var lib PCP config PM Logger. This is where my archives are being set up. I have my own little archive configuration file, so I'm going to copy it. Let me take a look at this thing. Config.sysa is what I got here. So I'm collecting data every 5 minutes. I'm getting a hardware inventory. Then I'm collecting kernel information like context switches, load level, CPU utilization. Then I'm getting memory information. I'm also getting paging information, swap traffic, network traffic, disk activity, file system activity, NFS, XFS statistics, and some NUMA statistics, and also the UV statistics. The other thing that I have to do here, though, this is a lab that you've got here. I have to edit this control file and turn on the primary logger, and I also want to change the file that I just created there, sysa. And I'm going to do a service PCP restart. Everything looks okay. Let me do a PSP and grep for PM Logger. And there is a PM Logger running now. Now the data was going into var log PCP PM Logger host name. And there's my data. Every 5 minutes, I'm going to get a sample into this file.
Dave?
Yeah.
This is Brian. So that's the question I had was, so this, it's not just that the data is being dumped over to Floyd every 5 minutes. The sample is only 5 minutes, is what you're saying.
Right.
So that's kind of a low granularity, right? That's
well, 10 minutes is typical. This is for a historical archive. If I've got an event occurring, then I'm going to do it differently. This is for baseline for days, weeks, and months.
Okay.
So I don't want 1 second samples for a year. So if an event does occur, then what I'm going to do is start recording it. So let me get to that here in a minute. Okay?
Yep, thanks.
So I chose a 5-minute granularity because I didn't want too much data, and this lab is short interactive type of stuff, but I would normally have it at 10 minutes for an archive. Now the other thing that I wanted to do was turn on my alarms. And by the way, I'll look at this data later, but the commands like pmchart-a and then that file will look at the file, but we don't have enough data to look at yet. So the other thing I need to go into is var lib PCP config let me go into config. There are two directories here, PMIE and PMIE conf. The conf one are the templates. The PMIE is what's actively being used. Let me go into PMIE and take a look at the config.default. And all I am collecting by default, or I should say all I'm doing alarms on, is my load level. If my load level gets above the load level being greater than the number of CPUs times 3. So I've got a 32 CPU system, so that'd be like 96, a load level of 96 will start setting off the alarm. Or anything that's greater than 4. And it's only going to write it into the var log messages once every 10 minutes. Now the other directory are my rules that are the templates. And I'm going to go into CPU. Take a look at, for example, low_util. So here it's saying the rule is this. And basically right here, percentage, taking the user plus the system plus the interrupt handler, dividing by the number of CPUs, and if we're less than a threshold, then we're going to write something into var log messages. It is not enabled right now. And that threshold right here was 25%. So I'm going to get a message written into var log messages if my CPU utilization is less than 25%. And it looks like we still have the ESP stuff in here that kind of needs to go away. ESP got dropped. Okay, but those rules are not in place yet. The only one we had was the load level. April 10th here. So now I'm going to do a PMIE conf. And this is going to configure my rules. I can type in rules and now see what all my rules are. This is the rule that we were just looking at. I'm going to do a list on that rule. Now I can see the same thing. Again, the threshold was at 25%, but it's not enabled. Okay. Let's do a rules again. I wonder about the file system filling. Let me list that one. What this one has in is something called rate. And it's doing a rate on the used field, and the rate's going to project in the future and says as the rate of the file system consumption is growing with a 20-minute window or every 4 minutes, if that rate exceeds the threshold of 95%. So it's saying that if at the current rate I'm going to fill up my root up to 95% in the next 20 minutes, then I'm going to write something into var log messages. And it's checking every 4 minutes for a file system use consumption growth rate that in 20 minutes would make me 95% full. And it is enabled right now, but it was not in the PMIE config.default file. So I'm going to quit, and notice nothing happened. ls-l, and my config is still April 10th. This time I'm going to go back into PMI conf, but I need to make a change. So I'm going to enable that CPU utilization. Maybe I want to disable the high CPU utilization because I want to keep these things busy. Now, let me do a list on cpu.util, and it is now disabled. Now watch, I'm going to quit, and this, oh, it didn't do it. I was expecting an error a message here. I was expecting it to warn me that it did just change things, but I do now have new rules in there. Normally it would tell me that you just made a change and you need to restart PMIE to pick up that change. Let me disable that one rule here for per CPU sum utilization. Normally it's going to tell me to restart PMIE, so let me do it anyways. Service PMIE restart. Or you could send a signal, a SIG-HUB to PMIE, which would also cause it to do that. Just a little surprised I'm not getting that message. Not sure why right now. the message I was expecting before. I don't know why I wasn't getting it. Maybe I didn't have PMIE started yet. I didn't actually do a check on PMIE to see if it was running. But here it's trying to say it's in use by a process, which means you're going to have to restart PMIE to pick up the change. So I just did a restart, but there's also this PMIE check that could restart it, or you could send it an int to that PID of the PMIE. So now I've got archive set and I've got alarm set. So let's do a rules. What is the rule for system time? If my system time gets above 75%, I'm going to write something into varlog messages. How about context switching? I don't see that rule here anymore. Used to be a context switching rule too. I don't see it here.
It's at the top. It's the top one.
Oh, there we are. Thank you. Blurry-eyed here. Let's list that one. So my threshold is 4,000. So if I take context switches and divide it by the number of CPUs, if I get more than 4,000 per CPU, I will also get an alarm going off. Any questions? So now I want to get PM chart working. Now my next class, UV system analysis, uses PM chart throughout. I already have PM chart installed on my laptop, right here. This is running distributed. I don't depend upon X11 for this, and I don't depend upon the network being responsive or VNC server working. So I'm going to file open view, and I want to change the host to Floyd4.sci.com. And again, it has to have a PMCD running, and I have to be able to get through firewalls and get to the socket that PMCD is on. The socket, I think, was like 1234 for a socket number. And I'm just going to select CPU here and click Open. And now I'm looking at the CPU utilization. Let me file Open View for memory. Let me file Open View for disk. And I'm good to go right here. I'm also going to make it a little bit larger. And also, see how wide these things are? That's a little too coarse for me. I'm going to change my number of samples. Also, by the way, I'm only looking at about a minute's worth of data. I'd like to be able to look back about 5 minutes. So now I'm a little bit better resolution, 48 to 54. It's about 5 minutes worth of data that I'm looking at here. Now, having said that, I'm going to iconize this thing. And instead, I want to go to VNC Viewer. There is something else I should have told you about. This PMGsys can take time on a big system to generate this. It's really calling a command called PMGadgets. And I can actually, when it takes a long time to build the scene for PMGadgets, I can do a PMGsys-V and then pipe that into TEE and just call it something, system-PMGsys. And then the actual ASCII string that created that whole scene is now in the file. And on a big system, 4096 CPU systems, it can take several minutes to do that. So now I've got the actual ASCII file that was generated that builds the scene that we're looking at up here, giving me the colors and everything, what the metrics are and the colors. And by the way, if I go up to here and click on something, I'm going to put my cursor right on that green there, and I'm going to click on my middle button, and I get an info button here. And now I can see what each of the colors are: idle, IO wait, interrupt handler, system time, user time. Any questions? So I'm also going to build an ASCII scene file for PM chart. Now PM chart is 2D. There is a 3D one as well called PM view, but we're not going to use that right now. So when I look at a system, I like to look at CPU first, memory second, IO third. So I'm going to do an open view. Let's do CPU. File, open view. Let's look at memory. Now, one of the problems is I've only got so much room here. Actually, let me put load level there. And then open view. Let's put memory in there. Open view. Let's put disks in there. Disk IO operations. Let's put that one in there. Let's also put file system space. And again, I'm going to make it larger here. And change my resolution. Okay. So I got CPU, load level, memory. I should have swap in here, but I'm not going to do that right now. Disks, and then file system full conditions. I'm going to save that view so that I can recall it. Notice it's saving it in my home directory, .pcp/pmchart. I'm just going to call this all. Now, I can only put so much on a screen, so I'm now going to create a new tab. I'm going to call this tab memory. And I'm going to click on that tab. And I want to build a better memory chart than the one I had before. Now, this is all personal preference. But instead of new chart, or instead of open view, I'm going to go to new chart to build my own view. I didn't mention this yet, but all of these statistics, if PMCD is running, you do a PM info-T, and you can see, you can see all the statistics that you can get to. Everything. And there might even be other things available in there. For example, UV. Let me just check something here. Let's grep for UV. Nothing. Let's pipe it into more. So we can see the UV stuff there as well. Remember local block and local home and remote home. We talked about that yesterday. And then the GRU, Numalink traffic, things of that sort. Now we're going to come back to that once I bring up the load. Any questions right now? So I kind of know where all these statistics are, and I'm trying to build a memory one, so let me click on memory. Then I'm going to click on util. And now here's where it's my personal preference. I'm going to pick page tables first. Page tables is when you get a page fault, it goes to the page table to find the physical address of that virtual program's page. And by the way, click here and find out about it, just like the PMinfo-T did. Even see what its value is. 134 right now. So now that I've looked at that, I'm going to add it with the arrow to the left. So I see Floyd 4 page tables are there. Next, I'm going to add in the kernel slab. This is all personal preference. After the slab, I'm going to add in dirty. Now, the slab was kernel heap that grows and shrinks. Slab top -S-C would tell me what's in it. Let me go back here. So if I do a slab top -S-C to sort by the size, I can see that I basically have a very, very small slab with 13 meg being the largest object in it. After that, I got inodes and then directories, then root inodes, and miscellaneous stuff. Here, by the way, is the process table. When you do a PS-E, it's printing out that task structure. Let me quit out of there. So after the slab, I'm going to do dirty. Dirty data is data that I've done a write on, but it is not flushed to disk yet. If I took a service interruption, the dirty data never made it out of memory. The file is incoherent. Once I run the sync command or the flush daemon says flush it, the dirty then gets marked to flush, and that is called write back. You should not be seeing write backs. If you've got write back data, that means your file system isn't keeping up. You're choking your file system, you're flushing more data than it can handle. And some of that write back data might be NFS. So any data that I write to NFS will go from application space, it'll get copied to the kernel and marked as dirty, then it'll get marked as write back, and then it will go to what's called NFS unstable. So all three, dirty, write back, and NFS unstable, is incoherent data that has not finished a flush or a sync yet. Once it has been flushed or synced, then it's called clean. So I'm now looking at the file system buffer cache piece of my program. There's one other structure I'm going to add in here, one table or memory footprint for buffmem. This is for raw I/O, which includes the journal, for example, for an extended 3. I've had sites that would clone a disk, DD on SDA to SDB, and then all their memory was buffmem. All this stuff can be trimmed and thrown away when we need memory. Next, I'm going to do a non-pages. This is my user process space that PS reports. And if it is shared memory that it's attached to, it will be called mapped. So mapped is shemem, IPCS shemem memory. Let me go back here for a second. If you do an IPCS-AM, we're talking about shared memory segments here. And then after mapped, I'm going to do free. And I've got a memory footprint, so I'm going to apply it. Actually, let me just do an OK, which will apply and close the window. But I don't exactly like the way I've got it going here. I can see some charts up here and some down here. I want to edit that chart. By the way, let me go back to this one here. If I click, see that bright blue? If I click in a chart, the header and the legend should change to a blue color, indicating that I can edit that chart. So I'm going to go back here, click on this chart, edit chart. I'm going to add in a title, and I'm also going to change it to a stack bar. And, well, I don't like the colors here. I'm going to edit again. And I'm going to go to plots here. I kind of like to see free as green. Let me get a nice bright green on that one. Oops, needed to do that again. Nice bright green. And then I needed to hit the arrow here, so now I've got a nice green here. And for non-pages, I'm just going to go with a real light cyan like that. And then apply and cancel. So now I can see most of my memory is free. By the way, I can click on this legend down here, and it will highlight, and it will take it out of that plot. So I've got about 600 meg of memory actively being used right now. Click on this. A lot of that's cache clean. There's my slab, my page tables, my slab, my clean, my process space, and my map space.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
Brian here. So on these systems with PM chart, the free memory you see there, is that real free memory, or is it possible to show up as free if it's been allocated and not, if it's been reserved and not written to?
No. So this is truly free.
Yeah. On IREX, it reports it as free even though it's reserved. Anyway,
well, there are two things on IREX, because there is an RMEM and an RMEM-C, which is the inactive portion of the cache that you can trim. Okay? But anyway, free is what's not allocated. On both systems, free is what's not allocated.
Okay, yeah, I just was pointing out that was confusing to me for a while over there. Okay, thanks.
So there is a VSWAP plot within GrossView that shows you your reservations. We are not doing reservations here. I'll do that in a minute. Now, let me add in another chart here. I want to go to swap. And I want to add in free. And let me make that green, personal preference. And then let me add in used. And let me make that red. This personal preference. Oops, I didn't take it. So let me click there. Notice if I click, that went blue. Let me click down here, edit that chart. And I wanted that one to be a stack bar as well. We call it swap utilization. We're not talking about swap IO, just utilization. And then let me change the color of the used to a nice red. Buy it. Okay. And I don't see anything used on swap. Let me move on. Next, I'm going to add another tab. Oh, before I do that, let me save this one. Save view. Let me call this mem. I'm going to put these all together here soon. Let me do another tab here. Add tab. This one I'm going to call trimming. Basically, I'm going to put stuff on here that has to do with memory recovery when I run out of memory. So I'm going to go new chart, and this time I need the VM stat group. And I'm going to look for all the trims or steals. So here's inodes being stolen. Here's pages being stolen. Let me do all of them. I don't think that I need all of them, but I'm going to put them there anyways. Oh, let's see. Any other steals in there? I think I got everything that I wanted there. Inode steals. Yeah, that's everything. So let me do an OK here. I'm going to add in another chart here. This time I'm going to do compaction. Oops, not what I wanted. VM stat was the group I wanted. So this is for garbage collection. Compaction should be turned off on my system because I did that thing in the sys kernel transparent huge pages defrag as never. And I also want to pick. We also have part of this is collapses and splits. If a large page goes out to the swap device, swap can only understand 4K by page sizes. So that transparent huge page gets split into 4K. And then when it comes back in, the collapses will occur to kind of coalesce them and merge them back together. And let me apply that one. I should put on some titles here. This one will be trims. Let me just call it steals. And let me call this one transparent huge pages. Let me save that one. I'm not quite done, actually. I wanted to add one more in here, which are the scanning for pages to steal. So when I run out of memory on a socket, I'm going to start scanning, looking for pages to steal. So here's all those scans. Now, there are several groupings here. We're only going to need one of them probably. Okay. Let Let me save that again. I'm going to do another one. This one's going to be Numolink. I'm going to go down to UV. Numolink traffic. Now, I have send ports and receive ports. I basically figure anything that sends comes back as a receive. They're very similar. I can't plot everything. So I'm just going to pick the send bytes and plot those. And these are all the ports to the hubs that are within this partition. Notice that the set is going 013, 013. The second port is going off to a different partition. So I'm going to select the three of these, put it over on the left, and then apply that. Oops, I didn't want it there. Let me click on that slot. Let me close that chart. I wanted a new tab, actually. Let's call it Numolink. Click on it and do this again. Open view. No, not that one. New chart. UV. Numolink. Traffic. Keep in mind the newer HARPs have 16 ports per. You could have a lot of ports to be watching. Gets to be too much data. So I'm just going to do send bytes here. And I'm going to add in one more for the GRU. There it is there. Bandwidth. Unfortunately, LinkStat is not going to give me anything in percentage. Now again, I've got data, replied, requested, totals. This is the data, this is the protocol, this is the total. I kind of want data. Transmit requests. I'm just picking the sender like I had on the other one. Now, the hubs only have 2 GRUs, and I've got 2 blades, so 2 hubs. This is different than the Numolink traffic. And now I'm going to put that over on the left and apply. Also, let me edit this thing, chart. So this is NL traffic. And this one, edit GRU traffic. And then let me save it. I'm going to want you to grab this file. I'm going to go into that .pcp directory now. I've got to put these together as a single file. This is something that PCP isn't really doing yet, to be able to save all tabs as a single view. So let me copy. Let's do a cat of mem into the all, and cat trims into all, and then cat GRU into all. And now I've got to edit this thing and change it. There's my CPU utilization, but what I've got to change here is tab. So I've got to put in a tab syntax here. This has to be done by hand still. We'll just call that one UV. Another thing I wanted to check on was my swap. Oh, something's wrong here. What the heck happened? All my metrics are null. That shouldn't be right. Those are okay. What the heck? Like there's a bug here. We've got a newer version running here. Let me try this memory one again. Save view. And just put it into mem again. Let me see if it's in there. There's something wrong here. Got a bug. So I'm kind of screwed on that point now. These should actually be listing the metrics I want. They're coming up as null. Let's see if these make any difference. They shouldn't. Huh. Okay. Let's move on. So I could have now, if I wanted one of those scenes, I'm going to do a open view. I'm going to click on the little people up here and then select the one that I wanted. I'm going to go with the trims. And it didn't like anything in there because the nulls. Let me go back to here. Let me do a save this thing. Got another PV to file, it looks like. Now I'm going to, let's see, start a new PM chart just to see it. File, open view. Click on the little people up here. Connecting to Floyd 4. And it still doesn't like something in there. Let's see what happened now. By the way, how are we on disk space? Plenty of disk space. So the all looks okay there right now. So let's try that again. File options, new PM chart, open view, select the little people. I'm going to do an all here. And it's still complaining about some metrics. But it did come up okay. Oh, my utilization is wrong. There's definitely something wrong here. Specifying the host in there now, the geometry. Let me try saving this again. But I'm not going to put the host name or anything in there this time. So there's still something it doesn't like. What's still showing Floyd 4 in there? I got it. Well, I'm going to ignore that. Let me try the PCP I have on my laptop here. And I have scenes from before. I'm going to do an open view. Click on this. Now this is off on my Windows system. Oops, I don't have one there. I've got one here from prior class. I'm just going to open up that one. just complaining about a file system and Numalink that's different. That's okay. Let me get into the Numalink. Let's close that chart, open up a new chart, get it for UV, the Numalink stuff, graphic, send bytes, and let's get these all added in over there. And then the other one was the GRU. And data transmit request. That's what I would usually look at. That's the starting point, the initiation of it. I've got to wrap up here soon. I'm not going to get any more time. I'm just going to finish up with this right now. There was the NumaTools demo. I'm not going to do the demo. I'm just going to let you try to do the lab right now. I kind of did a little bit of demo earlier. Oh, before I forget, this is a big note. I was looking for DLOOK summary. They didn't call it that when they integrated it. There's a DLOOK.pl now, which is different than DLOOK. So if I do a DLOOK, let me do a memhog of 100 meg. So we're getting each of the individual pieces and the attributes about them, but now if I put in a .pl on it, it will give me summaries so that at the end of each I get a total, and then at the very, very end I get total here. I can grep for that stuff. So I can do this, pipe grep total, and then actually see where the pages are for this process. So the workbook, I had called it DLOOK summary. That was his prior name, but it's actually just DLOOK.pl, which might be confusing to people too. Okay. So now let me go back to that MPI application. Let's log in as guest. Come on. Actually, is that the system I wanted? Let me break out of here. Go into Floyd 4. Module load MPT. Like I don't have it anymore, but let's do it. MPI run -NP32. Oops, I need the host first. Let's do a -stats, and then Floyd 1, Floyd 2, Floyd 3, Floyd 4. And we called it a.out. Oops, -stats. Now I kind of want to put this into an output file too. And I really need one other thing in here. There's a -prefix, which can put the thread number that's writing this thing into the output file. It'd be a little g. Okay. So let me try running this. Come back up here. Oops. Didn't like something. Got killed. Just try 2 here. Okay, so we do have a problem here. Let me check some things here. were running it successfully before. I don't see anything wrong there. I don't see anything. Oh, there we go. XPC software is not installed. So let's try this again. Still got a problem. Running on each partition. Let's try starting with Floyd 1. Okay, SSH, Floyd 1, LS mod, pipe, grep, XPC. So XPC is loaded there. If they're out of sync, that can be a problem. It's loaded there. Is loaded there, and how about my local system? And it's loaded there. Okay. I'm going to add it into here. It is in there. I wonder why it didn't get loaded before. Okay, so let me try this now. RM mod XPC. Let's do SSH to Floyd 1. I'm going to try to reload them all. Now let's do a mod probe. I am able to see the other 3 partitions here. 2, 3, and 4 are there. One, 3, and 4 are there. And 1, 2, and 4. Okay. Let's see if we can get working this time. Let me just get rid of some of these arguments just to be sure they're not causing a problem. Everything else does look right. Do we have a dot out here? We do have an a dot out. That is the proper one. And it is running now. I'm not sure. Reloading, those seem to have worked. I'm going to do the 32. That seems to have worked. Oops. Let's go back to the original one here. There we are. Okay, that's only 2 threads wide. I want it wider. And this time I'm going to not combine standard out into standard error. Just put standard error into a file. Let's go 32 here. So there we are running. The dash prefix is giving me the thread number here. I I can see that I'm running here. And here's my user CPU time. Here's my memory use. Any paging activity. And now notice NumaLink traffic isn't working. It's not turned on yet. If I do a link stat-UV, it's going to tell me it's not active yet. So I'm going to do -A. And now I'll be able to see the link statistics. So here I can see bandwidth on it, percentage of utilization, and it's the same data that I should start seeing in here. Not seeing it. Again, I'm not sure that those UV statistics are working in this release. Not seeing it happen. Okay. Now there's another thing I can do. I can only see one group of statistics at a time. You take a look at hub stats. These are the different groups. By default, I was looking at the NumaLink summary, but I want to switch it to GRU. So I'm going to do a hub stats-C on that GRU mem traffic, and then I'm just going to Trojan it with a sleep. And that'll flip it over now. NumaLink and linkstat-UV won't work anymore, and I'm getting a different group off the hub. But again, that PMDA, do we even have one here? PS-E pipe grep PMDA. We don't even have the, there should be a PMDA UV running, and it's not. Anyways, there's one for the UV. This is what should be running, and it's not. Let me see if I can even get that running this way. Remember, we had that boot error before. It looks like there's still a bug in the PCP area. So it does says we got new statistics, PM info-T. We had that before though, grep UV. There's all the statistics. This is normal, don't worry about that. So now link stat-UV-A. There's my traffic now. And I'm still not seeing anything in PCP. Let me just run this one last time. And I would normally be able to see either NumaLink traffic going on that would correlate with the link stat, or if I switched with hub stats over, I'd be able to see the GRU statistics. So that is a patch that I'm going to need. Okay. Just waiting for this to finish. I'm pretty much done here, everyone. I do not want to do a demo on NumaTools. I'd rather just leave that for you to lab right now. We've just kind of ran out of time. As soon as this is done, I want to look at the statistics, and then we'll wrap up the week. Now, if you go to, while we're waiting, I am updating. I didn't upload the videos for today, yesterday or today yet, but they'll be there this afternoon. I'll also remind you, SGI_UV. And this is where I've got recordings for everything. Like the module we're working on right now, I've got a 3-hour run there. 1.5 hours here, variety of different things that are in here. I'm going to be updating this next week to a newer version. Just waiting for this to finish, and then we're done. The stuff I did not get time for with NUMA tools is covered in the next class. So that's more of a tuning than a survival skill. So we're out of time. I'm just going to wrap it up here. Now, there are things that can be done to improve the bandwidth and reduce the latency, but that's another topic. I just want to know if it's using the GRU or not. So PCP-SGI needs a patch on it already. Well, while we're waiting, they did say that they connected the RAID. Let's do a rescan SCSI bus. And it still didn't discover it. Okay, that's done. So I'm going to grep for GRU in the error file that we wrote all of our statistics, and in here then we can see how much data was sent across the GRU rather than the memory to memory. What we don't have that I should be trying to get is a single copy transfer so that we aren't shuffling things around in memory, but that's a whole nother class and topic right now. I'm done. Anybody got any questions?
And no
I'm
questions.
hoping you don't give up on this lab practice.
So this,
Again,
if I wanted to rerun some labs over the weekend, can I just feel free to exploit one? Okay.
Not a problem, and the systems are not being used next week either. So keep in touch with me. Let me know. You know, don't be afraid to send me email over the weekend, Brian.
Okay.